But we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to be respectful of your time, and I know that when you folks aren't out in the field, you're not making money. So the good news is I scheduled this webinar for an hour today, but my presentation is only 30 minutes long, approximately. Excuse me. Um, I will stick around afterward for questions for a while, so I've got a whole hour blocked off, but the presentation part is not going to take that long, so that's the good news. The better news is everything you're going to get from me in these webinars that we do every month, it's all field tested. In other words, I know it works because I've sold it myself. I came from the field. I used to be an agent just like you, and I still service clients today, and I still sell these very products today that we're going to talk about. So you're not, if you've never heard me before, you're not dealing with someone that just knows about product. You're dealing with someone that's also dealt with it in application form, with helping clients over a 24-year career so far. I call this webinar the perfect storm, and it is about annuities, and we're going to teach you a lot of things today about annuities, but the perfect storm just got more perfect, and you're going to see that here in a little bit. We've got a lot of stuff going on around us right now that's creating tremendous volatility in our stock market. And if there hasn't been a more perfect time, we've got reasons to buy annuities to protect our principal and our previously captured and future gains. But in addition to that, there's things going on around us that are kind of scary that if I'm a senior, it would be very concerning to me with what's been happening in the market lately. So let's dive in and let's just talk about these things. We are going to talk about annuities today, but the big question is why? Why annuities? What's the big deal? What's the buzz? I mean, Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey hate annuities. Why? Stockbrokers, money managers, Fidelity, Wells Fargo, those guys do not recommend annuities. Why? Well, it's because they want assets under management, right? If you sell your assets under management, your financial advisor takes a pay cut. He doesn't want that to happen. He wants to be able to say, hey, we're going to slow and steady, we're going to grow this thing. Yes, there's going to be peaks and valleys, but overall, over time, you're going to end up with more than you started. But the problem is no one can time the market, right? And so knowing when to buy and when to sell becomes a real problem. Well, so again, why annuities? In 2001, when I started in this business, I was working with seniors back then, and they had two fears. And those fears were number one, going into a nursing home, and the second one was running out of money. Well, if you fast forward 24 years to today, those same two fears exist amongst that senior community, retirees and pre-retirees. So what's changed? Well, what's changed is today, as opposed to 2001, we have products that can address both of those fears. And so that's what we're going to go into today. The good news is, and one of the reasons we have the perfect storm is because as of right now, annuities are hovering right around a 24-year high as far as interest rates are concerned. How do I know that? Well, I know that because I've been doing this for 24 years. So I know that in the last 24 years, rates have never been as high as they are right now. They may have been 25 years ago, but what I'm telling you is over the last 2 decades, they've never been this high. So the market is primed, annuities are flying off the shelves. And most importantly, and I will say this over and over again throughout this presentation, your clients are buying annuities. They're buying them, I promise you. They should be buying them from you. Let me give you an example. So at OCI, we've got thousands of agents in our database. Well, we're a huge health insurance shop and Medicare and so forth, and we have a Medicare agent that's all she does. And she went out and sold a cost plan to one of her clients a while. This was last year, and I believe the commission on a cost plan is about $300. So she made her $300 and went on her way. Well, coincidentally, we have another agent that wasn't even in the same town as her, but was referred through a referral partner to that same client for financial services. Well, he went out and saw this client, walked out with $2 million and made over $160,000 in the process in commissions. The other agent had that same opportunity. They just forgot to ask the questions or neglected to or didn't want to. But the bottom line is, again, folks, your clients are buying annuities and they need to be buying them from you. So we're going to help you. And you don't have to be the expert. One thing I want to make really clear is if you don't know how to sell annuities, that's fine. Just get engaged with us. I came from the field. We will help you. There's a number of different ways to engage with us. And one of them is either we can do case design and help you with how to present it, or we can go in there and help you sell it. So get in touch with us and we can explain to you how that process works as well. Why do I say we have the perfect storm? Well, first of all, this number's off a little bit, but there's a lot of market volatility going on around us right now, and things that are happening remind me of what happened in 2007 and 2008, just before the market dropped. Last time I didn't update this slide, I apologize, but in July 2023, the Dow was 34,545, and last time I did this webinar, the Dow was at 44,497. Today, which you'll see in a few slides, it's at 41,000 and some change, and we'll talk about that. But I'm seeing a lot of things today that remind me of things that caused the last recession, so we'll talk about those. Like, for example, the global issues we have. All you got to do is turn on the news and see what's happening with Russia, North Korea, Ukraine, President Trump talking about the tariffs. All of these things that are going on both nationally and internationally affects our money. And it's not just due to who's in office. There are driving factors all over the place that cause this volatility other than just who's in office. But we do have a country that's divided on the homeland due to political tension and other factors. But we've also got seniors, and not just seniors, but individuals, and I'll tell you a personal story about myself here in a little bit, people that are concerned about the safety of their assets. They still have concerns about outliving their money. Inflation. I don't know when the last time was you went to the grocery store, but I challenge anyone to go to the grocery store and buy 5 or more things and get out of there for under $100. Everything is expensive these days. The cost of healthcare, nursing home, assisted living, we just talked about it. My wife and I currently are in the process. We just put my father-in-law in assisted living about 4 weeks ago, and it's $7,000 a month. So the rising cost of healthcare, all of those things going on around us, we've got to find ways to not only keep up with inflation, but position our money in a place of safety so that it doesn't create all this drag on our policies or on our money to perform. And then again, I talked about the rising interest rates on safe money strategies, the annuities that we offer. Again, folks, I haven't seen rates as high as they are in 24 years. So protecting our principal has never been more paramount and more important than it is now. And I'm going to show you why. Before we get into that, though, let's talk about Warren Buffett a little bit. Warren Buffett always employs the strategy of buy and hold, buy and never sell. But if you're not going to do that, what you're supposed to do is buy low and sell high. That's what we're taught. That's like investing 101, right? Well, the problem with that is most people do the exact opposite. They buy high and they sell low because they get scared, which is counterintuitive. Well, let me tell you a story. I was a little bit late because I missed some run up, but last January, I was in my office one evening. I work from home, and I was just looking at my 401k, and I saw that at that point, I was up about 17% in my 401k. And I thought, that's pretty good. And then I started thinking about old Warren Buffett and how he said to buy low and sell high. So at 49 years old, well, I was 48 at the time. At 48 years old, I took my entire 401k and moved it to a cash position. Why would I do that? Every financial advisor out there would say I'm stupid for doing that. Well, the reason I did it was because, number one, I work hard for every dollar I earn. I don't want to lose a penny. And number two, I remember what happened in 2007 and 2008, and I don't want to experience that. So that was my comfort level. There are seniors out there today that are still very much involved in the market, and that's their prerogative. They can do that. But my concern is what happens if you've got someone that's 65 years old right now that's wanting to retire this December, and take a look at all the volatility that's going on around us. It might get better, it might get worse, it might stay the same, but the bottom line is if I'm 65 years old and thinking about retiring and I've got any kind of portfolio put together, I'm a little bit nervous right now. So again, we talk about 2007 and 2008 crash. What happened? Well, we had the housing bubble that burst. We had inflation like we have today. Back in 2007 and 8, I'll never forget this. I used to tell this story around the time this happened. I was driving a Ford F-150 pickup, and prior to this market crash, I could fill up that truck for about $50. Well, once we started experiencing inflation, everything got expensive. It took me over $100 to fill that truck every time I did it. So inflation was rearing its ugly head in front of us. That was going on. We were fighting a war on terrorism back then. So that's what was happening in 2007 and 2008 that was creating all of this, the volatility and the recession that we had. We also had this thing, for those of you that remember, called the fiscal cliff that we were trying to avoid because of our national debt. And so what the government did was they created this thing called quantitative easing, where they were printing money and trying to pump money into our economy to try and prevent it from crashing. And so they did quantitative easing 1 and quantitative easing 2, and we still suffered a loss of 40 or 43%, whatever it was. Well, fast forward from 2023 to present, we've still got inflation. Even though we do have a new president in office, there's still significant, tremendous, I would say, political unrest. We have still the global issues with Ukraine, Russia, North Korea, and there's also something on the news every day about potential World War III and nuclear threats. So things are scary. And with all this stuff going on around us, the very thing on my mind is I want to find a way to protect what I've got. And sometimes the best offense is a good defense. So we'll spend some time, at least that's what my coaches used to tell me. So we'll spend some time visiting about that today. Well, so let's look back. This was February 4th of this year. The Dow Jones was at 44,504. Yesterday, the Dow Jones closed at 41,911, which represented an 890-point drop. When I updated this slide at 12:25 today, the market was already down 700 points. Last week, there were a day when it was down by 500, another day it was down by another 700. The point is, this volatility is creating a very eerie reminder to me. And I'm not saying it's going to continue to happen. And I'm not saying that the market's going to drop. I could be completely wrong. But what if I'm right? What if I'm right? What if we do go back to another 2007 and 8 and you've got a senior that's got $1 million in their portfolio and it drops by 40% and they're thinking about retiring in December? Well, now they've got 600,000. Are they going to retire? We'll spend some time talking about how long it takes to make up losses here in a few minutes, but just think about that as we go through and the impact, no matter what your age, whether you're 48 or 49 or whether you're 65, how you feel about your money and your risk tolerance really should dictate the moves you're making right now. Last 30 days, just in the last 30 days, folks, the market's dropped over 7.5%, 3,300 points. Now, this was as of a couple hours ago. Now, I will say that since I did that slide at 12:25 and the market was down 700 points, well, it's come back. Now it's only down about 600, but it's tremendously volatile. If you just go to look at the Dow Jones online, you can watch it and it wiggles about every 30 seconds. It's crazy. But we're seeing tremendous volatility. So why buy? Why buy an index annuity? Well, they tell us that the average bear market lasts only 18 months, but the average time to recover is 5.2 years. If you take a look at this graph, this is what happened. Everything was going up in 2007 and then started bottoming out at the bottom of 2008 and then started going back down. But that period of time represented a 40% drop. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's say that you've got $100,000 in the market. And in 1 year, the market goes down by 40%. Ouch. Just like it did during that period on the previous slide I just showed you. Well, now I'm at 60,000. But thank goodness the very next year, the market comes back by 40%. Minus 40 plus 40. I'm okay, right? Am I okay? I'm not okay. Minus 40 plus 40 only gets me back to 84,000. What do I need to get back to 100,000? 67%. How long is it going to take me to get to 67%? Well, I just told you the average bear market lasts only 18 months, but the average time to recover is 5.2 years. What if I don't have 5.2 years to wait? Well, then I'd start thinking about putting a floor or safety net underneath our portfolio to make sure that we can't have those losses. When you're no longer earning a new paycheck, you cannot replace losses with new earning, folks. Think about that for a minute. When you're no longer earning a new paycheck, you cannot replace losses with new earnings, just like this example here. So what is an annuity? Let's just talk for a quick second about Annuity 101. What is an annuity and why would I buy one? Especially why would I buy one right now? And by the way, my dad, who's on this webinar today, always used to tell me, we're in the life insurance business as well. And he always used to say, Aaron, the best time to buy life insurance was yesterday. And the second best time is today. And for those of you that sell life insurance, you'll understand exactly why he said that. If you don't, call me and I'll explain to you the reasoning behind it. But I will tell you right now, the best time to buy an annuity was yesterday. The second best time to do is today. And that's because of this perfect storm and what's going on around us. But in its simplest form, folks, what an annuity is simply a savings account issued by an insurance company. What I like most about an annuity, it's a place you can park your money and you can have safety and opportunity for growth on the same dollars at the same time. It can provide you with tremendous sleep insurance. Folks, you can literally buy an annuity. I helped a lady yesterday move $386,000. I did some work with one of our captive agents, and she moved $386,000 into an annuity. And I literally told her that when that policy gets issued, she can take it and throw it in her desk drawer and never look at it again if she doesn't want to, and it will be just fine. You can't say the same thing about that prospectus that your financial advisor hands you. So it's tremendous sleep insurance. Um, it's most likely not what you think it is. You know, annuities, I told an agent yesterday that annuities to me are like computers. You buy a new computer today, it's obsolete tomorrow. Same thing with cell phones and technology. Financial instruments are the same thing. A lot of times you'll hear people say, well, I don't like annuities. And I want to come back and challenge them and say, okay, tell me what you don't like about annuities. And a lot of times I hear things that were annuities of yesterday. And when I say yesterday, I'm talking 20 years ago. There has been so much innovation in the last, you know, well, daily still, but there's been so much innovation that annuities today look nothing like they did 10 years ago. So if you haven't taken a look at annuities for a while, please do. It'll be worth your time. In fact, I did a webinar similar to this a month ago, and I had an agent call me afterward and said, Aaron, I hated annuities. You've changed my mind. I want to talk to you. So I can make you a believer as well. Uh, it's a great place to provide a monthly income, a guaranteed monthly income for life, and so much more. But again, why? Why an annuity? Well, it's because of what's going on us right now. It's because of what happened in 2007 and 2008. It's because, and I just told a colleague this morning, I had a mentor once tell me that moderate gains over time will outperform a volatile market. When you don't have to chase after the 15% returns when you don't have any losses. 4 to 6 or 5 to 7% over time is going to be just fine. Um, yeah. So how do they work? What's an annuity look like? The kind of annuities that we work, there's various kinds, but the ones we typically focus on are what's called fixed index annuities. Now this piece was put out by American Equity, and it's relatively current. Well, they'll have a new one come out shortly, but this is from 2003 to 2023. And I used to have a big poster of this in my office when I was in practice, and I wouldn't say anything about it. I would wait till a client pointed to it, and they'd say, what is that?" And then a lot of times, the annuity sale would come out of it. And here's why. This graph right here tells the exact story of how an index annuity works. So I'm just going to take you through it. If we look at this red line first, this red line, if we follow it, this is the S&P 500. This is the stock market, and this is if you had money in the market, this is what it did from 2023 to, or excuse me, 2003 to 2023. This blue line, navy blue line, is the indexed annuity. And I'll talk more, I'll go into detail here in a second. And then the blue line is absolute worst case scenario guarantee. Okay. The rest of this stuff, it all depends on what the market does. Now the red line, it's going to go up and it's going to go down. The blue line, it's only going to go up or it's going to go flat. So let's talk about that. In the S&P, you get all the up and all the down. In the indexed annuity, you don't get any of the down. And the trade-off for that is you don't get all of the up. But the reality is most people aren't getting all the up anyway because they've got they're diversified in their portfolio. The only way you can get all of the upside of the market is if you pick the one winner. And no one's going to do that, right? Because we don't know who that winner is going to be. So we diversify and we try to minimize our risk that way. But the index annuity, we're assuming a cap of 8.5% in this navy blue line. And what that means is you participate in the index, the S&P 500 index. So we're following it. We're not in the index. We're linked to it. And when that index goes up, our money goes up with it. If the index goes up by 10%, you get 8.5 because that's your cap. If the index goes up by 6%, you get 6%. But if the market goes down by 10%, you get 0. 0 is your hero, folks. So you get everything between 0 and 8.5%. And that's why I say moderate gains over time will outperform a volatile market. But let's talk about this for a minute. Right here, we're following this along and everything's looking good. And then here's that bottom out that we talked about in 2007 when we saw the Great Recession. And we hit bottom down here. Our 100,000 dropped to 81,000, whereas our index annuity stayed in the blue. We just went flat. Well, then the next year, the market starts going up. So our index annuity starts going up as well. I used to get so mad when I was watching the news during this period of time because Brian Williams, who was the anchor on NBC Nightly News at that time, would get on the news and he would say, the Dow Jones gained 2% today to get it to whatever it was. And I would scream at my TV and I would say, Brian, that is not a gain. Until you get back to your 100,000, that's a recovery, my friend. It's not a gain. This right here is a gain. And the cool thing about it is once we get up to here, that's locked in. All these gains that you're getting every year, they're locked in on autopilot on your anniversary date. You don't have to sell the very vehicle responsible for getting you those gains to lock them in. How do you lock in a gain in the stock market? You have to sell. Well, then what do? Now you're on the sidelines. In an index annuity, you don't have to do that. That's what I meant when I said you have the opportunity to have safety and growth on the same dollars at the same time. And that's a powerful story. So we're cruising along and things are going good and things are going good. And then they get to equal right here. And then right here, the index annuity falls a little bit below the line. But right here, we keep going up. And then all of a sudden, boom, right there. You know what that is? That's COVID. And now we're back up here, at the end of 2003 at 428 versus 307. But think about in 2021 if you're 65 years old and you're getting ready to retire and this happened. All I'm saying, folks, is which line would you rather have? What's your favorite color here? For me, my favorite color is navy blue because I got to participate in the growth of the upside of the market up to 8.5%, and I didn't never have any of these losses or recoveries, and I also didn't have to pay any management fees to get there. So for me, for my peace of mind, for seniors and your clients, by the way, did I say this already? Your clients are buying these. I want them to buy them from you. They want that peace of mind, especially right now with everything that's going on around us. It's a scary time. And for people that are retiring, I promise you they're concerned and they want to have these conversations with you. The A word, annuity, it's not such a bad word anymore. I never thought it was, but some people did. Income riders, let's talk about that for a minute. These are things that you can put onto annuities, and it's going to address the other concern, which is running out of your money. Fidelity, Wells Fargo, Edward Jones, all these fund managers, money managers, they can all do a good job of growing your money, but there's one thing they can't do that we can, and that's we can provide them with a lifetime income, a guaranteed income that they can never outlive. That even means their money could run out, but their income never will. So I always ask clients, let me ask you a question. Would you agree with me that if you had $100,000 somewhere, anywhere, in any account, no matter how long you live, if you start pulling money out of that account, no matter the interest rate, would you agree with me that if you live long enough, you could outlive your money? And the answer is yes. Well, Mr. or Mrs. Client, what if I could show you a way by simply shifting your money from your left pocket to your right pocket? I could guarantee you contractually that even if your money ran out, you would continue to get an income as long as your heart's beating. That's pretty powerful. How does that work? I explain to my clients, your annuity is calculated two different ways, and it's like a car with two engines. You've got one in the front and one in the back, and they're both working independently of each other, but they're trying to get you to the same goal. Again, you can't outlive it. And, we talked about going into a nursing home early, and two seniors' biggest fears for those that don't have long-term care insurance for whatever reason, whether they didn't buy it or they couldn't qualify for it or whatever, these annuities, most of them today have doublers on them for income riders, which says, for example, if you turn on income and they're paying you $24,000 a year guaranteed, if you're unable to do 2 out of 6 of your activities of daily living, that income will double most of the time for 4 or 5 years to help out with cost of care, and then it just reverts back to the 24,000. So powerful. And those normally are a lot of them. Some of them have fees, some of them don't. We can talk offline about that if you've got some questions on those. And by the way, when it comes to income riders, call us because we have the ability to take competition out of play for you. And what I mean by that is we have a proprietary software that will allow us to plug in parameters and tell us which product or which carrier has the best product for your client for income based on when they want to take it. So for example, a client can say, well, I'll just give you an example. I've got a case where I'm helping an agent with right now where they want to have, starting 10 years from now, they want their spouse to be able to pull $50,000 a year out for life. So I worked backward and I determined how much of a deposit they would have to put in. And obviously we want to put the least amount of money in to get the most amount of income. We have the software to do that, but it ranks the carriers all in line, and you can see that and you can show your client, say, hey, here it is. Here's all of them. This is why you don't need to go talk to the other guy down the street. I can do any one of these companies for you. And that's the beauty of being able to have all the products and all the arrows in your quiver. So who's hot right now? What's going on in the industry? Who should we be looking at? Well, for growth, double-digit caps do still exist in index annuities. I know we still have some north of 10. I think the highest one I saw was 14. I don't know if it's still that high. They've been trending down a little bit. I told you earlier that we are at a 24-year high, but rates have been pulling back a little bit. They're still higher than they've ever been, but they're not as high as they were 6 months ago, for example. So it's time to buy. But some of the major players for growth, Mass Mutual, F&G, Fidelity and Guarantee Life. Allianz has a fantastic product for growth right now. Equitrust, one of my favorites. They've got a small little 7-year annuity. And in fact, I did a webinar last year, and I said, why would I pick a 10%, or excuse me, a 7% cap over a 10% cap? Well, naturally, people would want to pick a 10% cap, right? Because you have a greater upside opportunity. But in an indexed annuity, what has to happen in order for you to get that 10% cap? Well, the index has to go up by 10, right? If it only goes up by 4, you're going to get 4. If it goes up by 6, you're going to get 6. But how often are you going to hit that 10% cap? So it's a great cap, but I'll tell you why I'd rather take a 7% cap. That's because Equitrust has a strategy called the performance trigger. And what that thing says is if the market is flat or just goes up by 1 penny, you get the cap of 7%. So very, very strong. How often is the market going to go up? Well, the last 20 years, it's been up 80% of the time. So on that 7-year annuity, that tells me that if history repeats itself, you're going to hit that cap 5 out of 7 years. So very, very strong. For income, Corebridge, Equitrust, North American, Athene, F&G, all strong carriers for income. So what's our call to action? As I mentioned earlier, folks, your clients are buying these. You have existing clients that have money on the sidelines, whether you're in if you're a multi-line PNC agent, whether you sell Medicare, whatever you're selling, if you don't have annuities in your portfolio, you are missing out. They don't have to flee to a CD for safety. CD rates are dropping. Annuity rates are always going to be a couple points higher than CD rates. We've got much better options. So give us a call and let us talk to you about those things. As I mentioned at the top, guys, we're not just a marketing company. We're salespeople. We can help you close business. If you're not comfortable having the annuity discussion with your clients, and get me involved and I'll help you. I'll help you drag those things across the finish line. It's a fixed product. In fact, I used to have a securities license. I dropped it on purpose in 2005. You do not need a securities license to sell these products. They fall under, now you do need certain training. So if you don't have that certification, let me know and I can tell you where to go to get that. But you can sell a fixed index annuities with a life license. You do not have to be securities licensed under current law today. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. Your clients are buying these, folks. We need them to be buying them from you. This will make a huge difference in your practice. You know, the average size annuity that we see come through our doors is about $100,000. You know, if you did one of those a month or found a way to write 2 for 50 or 4 for 25,000, the commissions on these things can really make a difference in your practice, folks. If you're not set up with us today, call us and we can help you. Everything that I make available through these webinars, we make available to our contracted agents. Again, I mentioned that everything we have is field tested, including the cross seller's most favorite. It's Prospecting 101. Get with me afterwards. I can send you a PDF on what we use as far as prospecting questions, how you can just ask a question. If you've got a client in your office that's for whatever reason, before they leave, oh, by the way, are you concerned about the current and coming volatility in the stock market? And when they say yes, would you be interested in have a conversation with me about safe money strategies? And if you don't want to be the expert, would you be interested in having a conversation with my safe money specialist? And that's when you introduce them to me. So folks, again, the opportunity is out there. The market is primed. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. Your clients are buying these. I hope the information today has been helpful. We got through it in exactly 30 minutes. So for all intents and purposes, the presentation is done. I will stick around for a little bit and open this up for questions. So if you're muted, feel free to unmute and I'll stick around for a while.